Sky Squad, we are back in the building. And of course, we have got to get into a discussion about Dr. Wendy on the Carlos King Reality with the King podcast. Oh, yes. Now, if you guys are interested in this podcast and seeing the visual aspects of it, because some people are auditory and some people are visual sort of listeners, you guys can actually now follow Carlos on his YouTube channel under Reality with the King. I'll place a link for it in the description down below. Definitely go and subscribe. He already has the video up of him and Ramona, so you guys can see that in its full entirety, okay? So make sure you guys are following Reality with the King on YouTube. Now, with that being said, I want you guys to take a look at this. The first thing that he says is, on today's Reality with the King podcast, I asked Wendy Acefo if the cast had a sit-down meeting with Mia after she threw a drink on Wendy the way they had done one after the Candace and Monique situation in season 5. You guys may recall that. And then he says, her answer might surprise you. So we're going to touch on that in just a bit. But I think we need to cover, what was said beforehand first. Okay. So let's get into it. Now, Wendy says before coming on the show, she had never actually indeed watched Potomac. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know about you, but I don't know if I would be doing a show that I ain't never seen an episode of, okay? That's just me, especially when the show is right in my backyard. I'm going to know who the players are before I get on the scene so I can understand the dynamics and the shenanigans that are going on, and I can use my third eye to determine where I need to place my either alliances, my energy, or my time, okay? But that's just me. She says that she had watched Atlanta and Jersey, so I'm like, well, you know how the mechanics of these shows work, okay? So anyway, she says she didn't know about the politics. Okay, so that tells me that what we do think is about the behind the scenes shenanigans with Potomac is likely true. Okay, she says that she didn't know who was loved or hated, but it did allow her the opportunity to come into the show and be her most authentic self because she was just trying to be her. She does say that, when we talk about Wendy coming into the show, she does talk about how when she came onto the show, she had literally just given birth. Her youngest was in the NICU, and then she began filming. And so one of the reasons why she may come across as maybe inauthentic to some members of the audience, because Carlos did ask her about this, was because she said that she herself was just trying to figure out life, right? She's trying to figure out who she was in real time and who she is in real time, which is why she's trying this business and that business, because for so long as a child of immigrants, she was pretty much raised to do exactly what they suggested that she do. She even talked about how in her book, when she failed out of law school, the parents and the family got together as a community to decide that she would need to go and get her PhD so that she could become a doctor. So she also reflects on, outside of her marriage, and I'm sure having kids, that going on Potomac was probably one of the first decisions that she'd ever really made for herself in her life, outside of the family unit. So again, when we talk about Wendy's relationship with her mom, I think now we can see more of the complexities. And this was an eye opener for Carlos King. So he said to her, he was like, well, now that we've talked about this, because it was an eye opener for him, he says, do you feel like maybe that's why Robyn had such a big, question about who is Wendy? Why is Wendy doing these things? Why is Wendy doing that? And Wendy says, absolutely not. She says that her and Robyn were actually had conversations outside of the show. They were texting each other. They were calling each other. They were really kind of leaning on each other, during the pandemic as well. And so she felt like, well, if she really felt like this, she would not have saved it for the cameras. She would have called me. She would have texted me. She would have asked me something. But she feels like it was just Robyn trying to create story, because she says that she was connecting the dots, and she felt like, and I'm paraphrasing here, but she felt like it was that Robyn was trying to connect the dots and lay the foundation for, oh, Wendy is different now because she is, getting her body done. She's going through these different things. Oh, the rumors about Eddie must be true. So they were using that, according to Wendy, as a way to substantiate their claims, or this rumor that Eddie was out here doing something on the side. Okay. So There was a lot of other topics that they kind of touched on, and I'm just going to hit the highlights here because the ones that I found like wildly fascinating. Um, so we get into this idea of Robyn not inviting Wendy and the kids to Fun Day, but then inviting the kids via Candace, and how no one in their right mind would probably would likely go for that. Okay, no mother would likely go for that. And Wendy says, if you don't want the mama, you don't want the kids. But then she goes into this, which is very interesting. She says, if I can keep it real, that comment in this hot mic moment was not about Mia, which I found interesting. And it's going to get a little convoluted, so I want you guys to walk with me here, okay? She says that the comment was directed be I don't know if it was directed at Eric, but she had a conversation after her blowout with Robyn to Eric because she was crying in the car. And she was crying in her car because she felt like the women, especially Robyn at that point, was coming for her kids by not including her kids in the invite for the family fun day. She says, y'all can talk about me all you want, but leave my kids out of it. And she says, if it was really about the kids, as Robyn stated, when Robyn was asking if everyone was available, she was doing that availability based on if the kids were available, not the moms. So it would not have mattered about what the moms were doing. As long as the kids were available, that's all that should have mattered, right? So and I'm gonna connect that dot back in a second though. So she says Eric was right there in the front seat as she was crying. Um, and she says, the conversation with Robyn can't be that the kids won't ever know about the parent not being invited, because the kids will be at the family fun day and recognize that they are the only kids there without their parental figures there. And that at some point in time, the kids, because their friends happen to see the show for some reason, because they may be watching with their parents, will know that, oh, you weren't invited because this woman doesn't like your mom. And for her, Wendy says that Robyn has been on this show, and Wendy is the only person that her kids have had like the football play date with. Okay. She says she doesn't know what all of this was for, but she knows that everyone told her, Robyn, that it was wrong. Even people that Wendy's not cool with. And she said Robyn did not budge. She says, and I quote, she says that Robyn said, I don't care about those kids. I don't care. That's what I wrote down in my notes. Okay. Now, again, we say allegedly because that's what she alleged. We didn't hear Robyn say that verbatim, but it was more or less that Robyn didn't care about Wendy's feelings. I know that. Okay. So Carlos was really upset. He's in near tears. And Wendy was still kind of incredulous about this. Like, how are you going to have our kids there when everyone else's parents are there? And so, one of the things for Wendy was like, well, if it was really all of that, what Robyn could have done was Robyn could have had Juan call Eddie and say, hey, we're having a family fun day. The women aren't getting along right now, but maybe you can come in Wendy's place. She even suggested that could be a situation that happened between the two that would mitigate it. So now let's get back to this hot mic moment, because there were some things that to me were not clear. She is saying that the hot mic moment, that the comment wasn't about Mia. Was it the lying comment? Was she calling Robyn a liar? That was very unclear in the conversation. And I kind of wish that she would clear that up at some point, maybe in some other interview, if somebody else gets a chance to ask her. I want to know I need to know lay me out the specifics of what was said, because what we heard was a producer asking Wendy how she felt about Mia. And then the next thing we know, we hear Wendy saying, oh, she says something else, and then she says, oh, but she's a liar. Everyone knows she's lying. So who was she talking about Robyn at that point and calling Robyn a liar? Because some of you have pointed that out in the chat as well. But it seemed as though the production was leading us to believe that that comment was more or less about Mia and not Robyn. Okay. Also, too, it just goes to show Eric, the producer, was working overtime that day because he was also, if you guys remember, having to console, Candace in the room before she stomped off. And then now we learned that he had to go and console her in the car with Wendy. So it was just a lot that was going. Poor Eric, okay? Poor Eric. Justice for Eric. Anyway, so we get into the altercation with Mia and the glass throwing, and Wendy says no one was expecting that. She says, "Pay attention." Karen wasn't even expecting it. She says the conversation was not. It didn't warrant that action. So I guess we'll have to watch and see how that happens. I'm sure that'll be coming in the next couple of weeks. She did say that she had to take into account everything that she accomplished in that moment before she even thought about retaliating. But for her, she felt like it really wasn't going to be worth risking all the great work that she has done in her career to retaliate in kind to Mia. So I'm assuming she doesn't throw anything back. I'm assuming she'll probably have some things to say. I did think I heard her call Mia a crater-faced bee in the trailer, but I cannot recall. Okay. What I do know is that Carlos reflects back on the season 5 altercation between Candace and Monique and how the ladies all had a sit down, with Monique about this whole situation. And so, he says, were you given that same grace of them having a sit down with Mia? Wendy says, and she gives a slow laugh, and she says, y'all are going to see a lot of people eat their words. Y'all are going to see a lot of people, everybody's position of this is not what we do. We're better than this. She says, watch this season play out because it's about paying close attention to the ways that the goalpost has been moved for her. And then she says this. So there is no conversation about that. She says, so I'm assuming that there's going to be some people that are maybe glad when Mia did what she did, or maybe think that Wendy had it coming. But what I will say is that she says something wild to me. Well, she didn't say it to me, but she said what I thought about it was that it was wild. She says, what you guys will also see outside of Family Fun Day, you'll see people, namely Robyn, doing everything in their power to ice me out. She says the Family Fun Day is nothing, okay, to what you're going to see next. And I'm like, wow. And in my mind, this is why I feel like Wendy should have maybe watched the show prior to joining the show. For some reason, and I just got to say it, we're going to call a thing, and some people are not going to like it. On this show, we have seen the icing out process occur before. And it typically happens when someone goes up against one or two of the Green Eye Bandits, or maybe both of them. And I don't know why, when the people go onto this show, they for some reason think that it won't happen to them. Because as we have seen, it is now happening to Wendy. And so I guess the thing that I would have to say about that is I think the lesson to be learned is before you go into a TV show or any type of reality TV show space, you definitely have to watch the show. You have to look at the dynamics because Wendy's a smart woman. So I do think that perhaps had she seen it beforehand, she would have understood exactly where things were eventually headed, should she ever find herself in the crossroads of the Green-Eyed Bandits. Because on this show, They have the power. And that is what it is. That's the dynamics. Argue if you want to, but that's pretty much it. So you guys let me know what you think about this in the comments section down below. I am interested in Dr. Wendy. I'm interested. I'm interested in her growth process. I find it fascinating. I think she offers something different in terms of storylines, and I think it's exciting to watch her evolution. I can't wait to see where she ends up because I also understand her work in the talk space as well, and how she has to navigate herself in a specific way in order to continue to maintain the level of integrity that she does that's required in order to be able to maneuver in the academic space as well as the talk space and commentary space. I understand it. So I hope that we continue to get to see that growth and evolution. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. I'll be interested in reading your comments like I always do. And with that being said, I will catch you guys in the next video.